meets mind, we ponder, we dream.
Awesome. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's great to finally meet you because this is how we meet each other nowadays through Zoom. This is in person. This is our version of in person. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization and what you're passionate about?
For sure, yeah, great to be here, Chris. So, where do I start? Born in the UK, born in
You
the
could do one
UK,
of those things where you start at the exciting part and jump back, like in a novel, or you could start at the beginning. It's up to
yeah,
you.
that is true. The classic storytelling structure, right? That we should learn. So yeah, so fast forward right now. I like to summarize my journey as a nerd to being heard.
Nice,
So
nice. I love it.
it's, so I now run my own business, loving life, and really looking forward to the next chapter of how we can grow my business and then also build houses, invest in cryptocurrency, and ultimately move near the ocean, which is where we're heading to next
Oh,
on
very
the
cool.
plan. But so that started way back in the UK. I grew up in there, went to the traditional approach of house, employed job, and thinking, right, we'll start a family. But then actually my wife, our life took a bit of a turn because my wife was diagnosed with cancer
Oh
back in
no.
2000, and she's a survivor. So she did
Oh,
get
that's
through
good.
she did get through the chemotherapy and radiotherapy, but that really opened her eyes.
Oh
We
yeah.
were very much, okay, life's too short. We need to do something different. So
It's funny
at
how
that point,
it's interesting how you need crises really clarify your vision, don't they? It's like if you don't
mm,
go through a crisis, you could just muddle along for years, but then a crisis comes along and it's late you laser focus.
it is, yeah, exactly, especially with time. And then actually, my wife had cancer diagnosis again in 2013, so that really
Oof.
reinforced it. So anyway, the first time triggered us to, okay, what do we want to do in life? And I've always had the goal of living abroad, working abroad in another country. And it took a few years. It was difficult at the time, actually. It's and one of the things I look back on now is the success factors is around persistency and continuity. That is
Mm,
truly one of the differentiators these days, especially as I know we'll get onto the future, the conversation in a bit, but persistency and not jumping to new things, not getting distracted is key. And that's what helped us get to Canada.
damn it. That's what work doesn't work for me. I keep getting distracted by new things all the time.
I know,
I should
and
stay
it can
focused.
be if you it can be, but it's hard work.
Oh
It's
yeah, yeah.
and and
Absolutely.
and, it, and so what I mean, I have a number of business coaches over the years, and my current business coach, I was just on a coaching call today, and he was saying that the number one business advantage or competitive advantage is consistency. Just
Mm,
really just picking something works. You have to validate that it works, or someone's doing that it works, and then just follow it over and over and over again. Just keep doing it. Don't give up.
right. Right.
Exactly that. So
That's
yeah.
see, that's my problem. I just keep jumping from one thing to another. I'm too excited by the new things.
Well, and it's interesting because there's different personalities involved. I'm more of the integrator type. That's why I set up my company called We Deliver Your Vision, because I work a lot with visionaries who are big picture thinking, and I love that. But I'm more of the follow through, deliver, and that's why I like to deliver on people's visions,
Right.
including my own, and that's
Yeah.
why I practice as much as I preach on
Well,
that.
that's the stuff that pays, right? That's the problem.
Yes.
It's kind of like innovation and ideas. People are going, "Oh, it's a dime a dozen." But once you start with execution, execution is the thing that's really treasured, right?
That is true, but you do need both. You do need both.
Yes.
You do
No,
need that
no, you
visionary.
absolutely need both.
Yeah.
It's just people have this. I've been through these conversations where they're like, "Oh, ideas are a dime a dozen, but it's execution that matters." But you absolutely must have both,
Mm.
otherwise you have nothing, right?
Yes, exactly. And a quick tip I'll share as well is, how do you decide of all the things you can do, especially in business and new opportunities? And I don't know if you've heard of the RICE, RICE
Yes.
framework. Okay, perfect. I love that because its simplicity is amazing around the reach, the impact, confidence, and effort to achieve those. And just rating them 1 to 3, give it a score, is a very quick way to decide on opportunities and ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is, I mean, I've been in the innovation space forever. And
Mm.
innovation is one of those things that's really when there's good times, people spend money on innovation, but when the times are tough, they cut it back, just like they cut back training, just like they cut back HR and things like that. So we go through these
Mm,
cycles where they start off really heavy, lots of innovations, spend a lot of money, invest, and then it just after 2 or 3 years of no real return, it disappears again, and it just keeps going through these
Yes.
cycles. So the execution piece, though, is constant because they're
Mm.
always executing no matter what. So the ideas come and go, but the execution is always constant.
It is, and I find that a lot of people, or many people, have too high expectations with innovation, and particularly around I do a lot of work in the automation space around financial reporting and data flows to ultimately get data to measure what matters and report on cash flow and optimize the profitability. And people approach automation as it's going to solve everything. It's
Oh yeah, of
we're going
course,
to put
isn't
it
it?
in.
I mean, that's the whole point.
Yes. And there's two things I always share from lots of years of scars and lessons learned around a bad process automated is still a bad process. It's just going to do it faster. And
Exactly.
the other thing is that even if you automate a process, and this goes back to your comment on innovation, even if it's 50% automated, that's still 100% awesome because
Mhm.
it's freeing up 50% of your time. So even if you slow down the innovation or it doesn't work as much as you expect, even if you're getting 10, 20, 30, even 40% increase in improvement, that's still amazing.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's what we
Well,
need
in
to
some
recognize.
industries, even 1-2% improvement is amazing. I mean,
Mm,
I've been in some industries where they're like, "Oh, 4%, that blows us out of the water." I'm like, "Wow." Some of these numbers,
yes.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. It really depends on the context, right? So you're living in Canada now? You're where in Canada are you?
Yes. Yeah, loving Canada. So we moved to Toronto in 2007.
Oh, no way.
Then
That's where I'm
yeah.
from originally.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
perfect. So we were in Mississauga with our two dogs and a cat, and lived in the suburbs there in Port Credit area, and loved. I was
Oh, no,
commuting in. I
I
was
know
working.
that area very well. Although I lived in the beaches, so I was on the east
Ah,
side.
yes. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we were right on we were on Lakeshore Boulevard. So it was an amazing experience in Canada, other than the winter, but the coming into Canada was. I remember the
That's the
very
reason I
first.
left. The main reason.
I remember the very first because we arrived in November, and I remember that we were near a public space, and there was a big display, and it said -12 Celsius, and that's probably the coldest I'd ever seen coming from the UK. Little did I now live in Calgary, and it's
That's even
yeah when you get
worse.
I know you then you get to -40, and when it's -40 is the same when it's the same temperature in Celsius and Fahrenheit, you know it's damn cold.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
But I love the space. I love the optimism of North America. I love the idea because what I love about Canada is it's taken the American dream, applied a little bit of the the empire legacy in Canada, but it's still very optimistic. There's
Mhm.
big open spaces. I love the idea you can do anything you want, and that's been really motivating for my wife and I in North America. And yeah, we really love it here. So we're in Calgary right now.
Fantastic. I love Calgary. It's a great place. I used to work for Shaw Communications, so I used to run the cable
Oh,
company in Canada.
oh
So
wow. Okay.
yeah, that was an interesting time, I gotta say. A
Yes.
long time
Yeah.
ago.
Well, yeah. And unfortunately, the Shaw are now gone different ways because they've been recently taken over. But yeah, Calgary has a huge telecom presence. I mean, we're known for oil and gas, but there's a huge tech community here as well, which is really growing actually. And that's what's
Yeah,
exciting about the small businesses that we work for, is in terms
yeah.
of how do we help them through that innovation and growth.
Well, the thing about Canada is that it's perfectly suited to come up with communication solutions because it's a giant country and
Mm,
a few people separated by long distances. So of course they're going to specialize in communications, right? Because
that
that's
is true.
they need that
That
just so they
is
can talk to
true.
each other.
Yes. Yeah, that is true. And unfortunately, you get great communication, but you also pay for it as well. It's still, I guess, it's the infrastructure costs for making that communication. It does seem
Oh
to
yeah,
cost quite a bit more to
exactly
have your
right.
cell phone
So
plan.
do you work with mostly Canadian companies or do you work with US companies as well?
It started out to be Canadian, but now it's across North America. So mainly northern North America and specifically the Pacific Northwest. I love Seattle area, Washington State. And we'd like to move down there for a bit more. So that's one of our steps closer to the ocean. And we have some good friends down in the Seattle area as well.
Nice.
So yeah, so it's mostly in Canada, Calgary, but then I have a number of clients over in the Seattle, plus a couple in North New York and West Virginia right now as well. So That's the beauty of remote working. It can
Yeah.
truly be
So
anywhere.
so you mentioned AI earlier. I mean,
Mm.
how are you seeing, how are you finding, is there a lot of demand for work in the AI space, or is it still too early for that?
Yeah, great question. So let me unpack this. So there's a lot of demand for sure. There's a lot of questions around how should I be using it? What should we be doing? But there's I'm finding a big gap between people keeping the lights on the day job, just running the business, and then some more innovative companies who are really embracing AI.
Hmm.
So, and there's quite a gap between. There doesn't seem to be much in the middle, is what I'm finding, or what we're finding from our. We actually do a digital transformation survey, and this is part of the questions: is where are you on that in that gap? So what I find is a lot around AI is that people are certainly embracing the chat GPTs, the co-pilots, and then some people are full on using it all the time, and then some people are not really using it much at all. There doesn't seem to be much in the middle.
Mm.
A lot of the big, what I'm finding, a lot of the big companies, like we do a lot in the financial services space, so the big ERPs with SAP and Oracle, etc. They're starting to add on AI tools to their existing suite. So that's where it's starting to become more adopted because it's packaged with your existing software. But I love it from a just a even just day to day understanding, typing in questions for helping with my social media posting, my videos, refining communications, business cases. It is truly amazing in terms of how
Oh
it can
yeah,
help.
I absolutely use it for everything. And don't really understand the folks who fear it, right? They're
Mm,
really concerned that, oh, AI is going to take my job, or oh, AI is going to eliminate this, or and I just don't, because I don't see it as anything. It's not really a human being. It's not like an intern. It's not like a person. It's more like an sophisticated autocorrect, because it's just a database
yes.
and it's trying to figure out what you want to hear next, and it's just putting these things together, and it can
Mm.
save you a lot of time, but I don't think it can actually do the work.
Right. Yes, it's the great analogy. I can't remember where I heard this the other day. It was around a cake, a sponge cake. So if you have a sponge cake, the AI is the sponge, the substantial bit of the cake, but you don't want a cake without any icing on it, any frosting.
Unless it's a
So
pound
that
cake.
well, yeah, true, but it's even better with frosting on it. So that's where you come in. That's where you put that frosting on top to say, okay, we've got the sponge, we've got the pound cake from the AI. It's done the majority of the work. We add the frosting, the layer on top
Yeah.
to make it amazing.
Yeah. Well, it absolutely has to be a combination, because I mean, I've seen so much content out there that's obviously just completely AI generated, and it's just junk,
Mm,
right? So there has to
yes.
be that human AI combination, and you can create some amazing things.
Yes, yeah, I like using it for. I'm sure you do as well, Chris. Is I put my text into AI, say make this better, and then
Hmm.
I'll go through it again and add my flavor and my character to it as well. But it helps with some different ways of phrasing, sentence structure, and sometimes better communication as well.
Right. So
Yeah.
was it the health issue that drove you into entrepreneurship, or what made you want to do, what made you want to leave a cushy job as a 9 to 5er, and now take on the mantle of entrepreneurship, which is way more risky.
Oh, it is. Yeah. So another great question. So yes, it was cushy, but I wasn't being stretched. I wasn't
Right.
finding that I was finding that, okay, is this it? So I was in my
Yeah.
we're mid to late 20s by this point, early 30s when we finished up the diagnosis. Like, okay, is this it? Is this the routine of the day?
Yeah.
So that triggered the first move actually was to bigger consulting. So I moved from my employed job to an employee consultant with Ernst and Young,
Hmm.
and that was a good because again opened me up to consulting with different companies, learning different frameworks, toolkits, problem solving, and travel within the UK and Europe. And then that enabled me to come to Canada. So, but after a few years, like you say, even that was challenging and amazing opportunity, but it was like there's something still missing.
Right.
And plus, I wanted to work with my wife. She's amazing at marketing, and so we said, okay, how can we work together on this? And that's where we launched the business, and yeah, went the entrepreneur route from there.
Well, how did you know you were going to be a success? Like, at what point have you hit that point yet? Like, you usually when you have a startup, or you're working on your own, you get to a point where you realize, yeah, this is going to work. Like, have you hit that point yet, or like at what point did that happen?
Yeah, good. You're asking the really great questions here. So my answer would be, do you ever really know? Because it's some days it's amazing, we're on fire, we're everything ticking all the boxes. Other days it's like, why are we here? Why are we doing this?
Right.
What I do love around the entrepreneurship and the consulting is you do get to truly choose how you spend your time.
Hmm.
But on the flip side, you have to choose how you spend your time. So because otherwise you
You
don't
always have a
you
client. It's either a client, you have a boss or a client. There's always somebody you're beholden to. It's like you're never fully independent, no matter how you
correct,
slice
yeah,
it.
because I mean ultimately you need to generate the revenue to keep the business going and pay my employees and pay my staff and the team. So I love the challenge of that though, because it does truly each day it does create some stress, but I'm finding it good stress to say, okay, how do we solve this puzzle? My coach recently helped me move away from using the word problem and challenge to puzzle. How do we solve
Mm,
this puzzle? And it's just a little neat little reframe to say, okay, the joy of solving the puzzle as opposed to seeing a problem we have to overcome or a challenge we have to defeat, as it were.
right. So what are you
Yeah.
seeing happening out there in the space? I mean, are people cutting down their spending? Are they increasing their spending? I mean, what's happening out there?
Yeah, I'm finding it's firstly, I'd say it's around talent, is retaining people and maintaining, because a lot of it is, especially in the accounting space, it's very difficult to find accountants because just the qualified accountants coming through the industry is
Right.
lower. But there are lots of good accountants out there, so it's then keeping them and then keeping them motivated, because people have a lot more choice these days. I
Mm.
see a lot of trends around people saying, well, I don't have to do the 9 to 5 job anymore, I can go and make money as a YouTuber, for example. And I actually
Can
feel
people
that's,
actually make money as YouTubers? I mean, come on. It's got to be. That's a
well,
high
some people
bar.
do.
That's a high
Yeah, I
bar.
mean, I mean, they're the top 5%. I mean, it
Yeah.
takes a lot of work. I mean, that's what I was about to say, is it's still just as much, if not way more work to earn money online, because it's the barriers to entry are so low. Anyone can spin up a video YouTube channel. But to make money and revenue from it, you really have to refine your art and then really understand how the goal is ultimately to break even. My view is you break even with um, your YouTube channel. So then it's the advertising and the revenues coming in to pay for the production, which
Yep.
then enables you to basically consult with more people. So back to your question around the challenges. So yes, there is a constraint on spending. There's a lot of uncertainty coming into the elections this year, and with interest rates going a little bit up, a little bit down, it
Yeah.
seems to be
Well,
not
people
or
aren't
not
holding
being.
off work because they want to know what happens in the U.S. elections, are they? They're not, I'm assuming that that's not really
I,
a deciding factor.
I think I do see some caution there, because it depends. So whichever way it goes, that creates change. And I
Sure.
think some people are very much. I think some people are holding off to say, okay, can we get some certainty so that decision's made either way, because different parties have different ways of doing things. I wouldn't say it's dramatic, but I do see some caution around, okay, could this hold off? However, what we are seeing a lot is around the technology debt needing to be replaced. A lot of the companies we work for are saying our software is getting old, and sometimes this is 20-year-old software. So you don't have a choice. You have to move off the platform, because it's either going to
Dude, I've
be
worked for banks that have 40-year-old, 50-year-old
oh,
software because they say if it's not broke, I'm not going to spend $1
yeah.
trillion or $1 billion replacing it, right? We just keep adding layers to it. It's still okay.
Oh,
You got the
yeah. I'm just
old
just
IBM 1130s in the back room.
Yeah, exactly. We're just working with one client there. They've inherited some mainframes, the physical building mainframes. So
Yeah.
much as I'd like to think I can still do COBOL, it's not something I've kept up. So it's going through the whole year 2000, and that solving that problem is something I don't necessarily want to do again. Anyway, to your point, yes, there's the technical debt, and unfortunately, what's happening is that there's an element of just replacing the technology as opposed to, okay, how can we make improvements? So I see a lot of focus on what's the cost for replacing this, as opposed to what's the benefit of making this better.
Right.
and
That's too bad.
and I do work a lot with my clients to say, okay, sure, there's things we must do for hygiene maintenance, but then what are the benefits of this? How do we improve the customer service? How do we streamline a process? What result does that give your customer,
Yeah.
be an internal customer or external customer?
Yeah. Because if you're going to replace it anyway, you may as well replace it with something better, right? You like do that
Yes.
due diligence, do the analysis, and figure out how can we take leaps ahead of this instead of just sliding in, the least
Mm.
painful replacement. It doesn't make sense. But
Yeah, and I often get the question about should we go best of breed in terms of multiple systems, or should we go all in one and just have it in one package and one software solution? And there's pros and cons for both. But to the point we just made, look at what functionality or benefit you want to create, and that'll help you with your decision whether you go best of breed or all in one or a bit of both.
right, right. Well, it's time to think like a futurist. It's the year 2034. It's 10 years from now. So where do you think you're going to be? Where do you think your business is going to be in 10 years? Do you think AI is going to replace it? You think we're going to be able to just sit down and go, okay, build me a da 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 da? Because I've seen some of this stuff online where they go, build me an entire website, build me an entire application, and it's getting there for minor things. Do you think it's going to get to something at the levels that you guys are working at?
I do. I do think, I mean, who knows where we go, but I do see the rapid growth. I love Ray Kurzweil in terms of his Kurzweil curve, and he
Yeah.
sees that point of singularity in 2050. So, but that's starting to come in a bit.
He
Either
keeps moving
way,
that forward, though.
I,
He
kn-
keeps moving it
I,
forward.
I know. And then we've got the artificial general intelligence, which who knows when that will happen. The predictions are next 3, 4, 5 years, maybe. So that's getting close. And I do see robots coming in. We have a lot of with the Alexas and the Google Homes and the smart speakers. They are effectively mini robots. And then we started getting to drones. We got into delivery of drones. So I do see an element of us having a personalized access, whether it's not it may not be a physical robot that we have buyers in our offices, but I do think we'll have personalized AI that just knows us and our businesses and our personal lives so well that we can interact with it very easily. And that will accelerate a lot of the work, the transactional type work we do. So it knows when you're everything from running low on milk to predicting your cash flow to helping with your bank account. I do see that becoming more pervasive.
Would you say, do you see AI employees in the next 10 years, like working at your company?
Good question. I'm going to say yes because I think we will invest. I think everyone will invest in AI. So technically, that is an employee. So when you say an
Mm.
employee, I think we're going to. I think a lot of I mean, even just buying the ChatGPT Pro or 4 is an investment in an employee. They're a co-worker. So not in the traditional sense, as in you're going to be physically employing a robot sit next to you, but I do think there is going to be investments into AI which effectively are doing the work of an employee. Which, so in answer to your question, yes,
So you said you were a content creator before. So you've got your own channels as well?
I do. Yeah, I have a YouTube channel on Instagram and LinkedIn, but and yeah, put out a lot of learning and insights on that.
So that's the other, we didn't dig into the content creator piece of it, but we were talking about people open starting up YouTube channels. And I think it's much harder than almost any job because you're constantly on, right? It's 7/24. You
Mm.
can't stop creating because once you stop creating, it's like you disappear, right?
Yes, exactly. The barriers to entry are so low that anyone can spin up videos, and there's so much to choose from. And that's where, again, that consistency comes in. We mentioned at the beginning about continuity, and that's your biggest competitive advantage in anything you do. Is I think the often a mentor before has often said around if you're doing a podcast, do at least, I think it's 50. If you're doing YouTube, do at least 100 videos. You have to really refine your art and invest in it.
Right.
Doing 10 or 15 and then going, oh, it doesn't work is not a big enough experience for you or test case for your customers to know what's working. So you have to
Oh,
really
absolutely.
invest in it.
And there's thousands and thousands of podcasts out there that have a few episodes or 15 episodes or 20 episodes, even 100 episodes, and then they're gone, right? Because if you
Yes. Yeah.
do a bit of a search, it's very rare that you find some of the smaller podcasts that have that are continuously broadcasting since the beginning. So there's plenty of people who just do it and then they give up on it. And like,
Yes. Yeah.
how do you find motivation to keep going if you don't get the audience you're looking for?
It's a good question. So I always do it based on what can I learn from this? Because if I'm sharing my learning journey, then I'm hoping someone will get something from that. So I like to speak with interesting people like yourself and interview people for a potential book I'm writing and also for videos and say, okay, let's understand their views on the world and what they think, and I can learn from that and then I can apply it. And if I share that journey, and this has been a journey for me in terms of sharing, because I come from a background of knowledge is power, hold on to everything, and just heads down and get on with the hard work. And that's fine, but if anything, you're just doing a disservice to everyone else out there by not sharing the knowledge you're sharing.
Absolutely.
So it's put it out there. So in terms of what motivates me, it's okay, how can I figure out the puzzle? Because I generally sometimes don't have an answer. I need to look into a better hook for my videos or a better way of applying automation. So I love the quote by Dan Sullivan. He's a Canadian business coach, and he says, "Who, not how." Because
Mm.
we often default to how do I solve it, how do I figure it out, and as the saying goes, you can't think your way out of a problem. It takes longer. So who can I talk to, who can I ask? And by doing that, you're making connections, sharing
Yep.
value, meeting interesting people.
Yeah, because 9 times out of 10, the problem's been solved by somebody else.
Right. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Great point. There are very few brand new problems.
Yeah. Well, I
They're just
remember
hiding.
somebody I talked to, Jake Jorgensen of Lead Cookie, who I've had on the show a couple times. And I remember once he said to me, he said, I'm never going to start a business ever again that has never been done before. It's like I'm going to
Mm,
take a pre-existing business model and I'm just going to reuse that because it's been proven. And I think in some ways, I mean, I'm an innovator, so I like trying new things. But I think in
yes.
reality, when it comes to business, like actual profitable businesses, really, you don't want to look at anything innovative. You want to look at what's already out there, what's already proven, what's already people are already educated about. Because if you think about something completely innovative, you have to educate people about what it is and its value. Whereas if you just lift something off the shelf that's already been there and just do it better or provide that unique twist, then
Mm,
that's a better business or
yes.
as
Yeah.
businesses go.
Yeah, I mean, look at Elon Musk. I mean, he didn't invent electric vehicles, but he made electric vehicles very accessible and popular. It's life on Mars is his end goal. Getting into space onto planets is not new. Getting to Mars is new,
Hmm.
but he's building on existing technologies, existing ways of doing things. And like you say, it's building on those existing problems in a different way to achieve a bigger goal. And I do think that's important as well. Is the big hairy goal, that's audacious goal that you need to have to work towards. And that's why I love your question around that 10 years time, the future thinking, because having that goal and then working back from it, you don't want to let the future be done to you, but because you can sit back and be a victim of it, or you can say, okay, how am I going to create the future? How are we going to build the future you want?
Yeah, and we're the ones who are building it. I mean, no one else is
Mm,
doing it. We have to build our
yeah.
future, or someone else will build it for you, and that's key, right?
Yes. Yes. Exactly that. So, yeah.
Very
But
cool.
I'm
Well, this
curious.
has
Yeah.
been. Go ahead.
Just one quick question as well. I'm curious your views that you do a huge amount in the AI space as well. I love your blog as well, and in terms of what you share. Your views on artificial general in intelligence. When do you think that will come about?
Well, I think, and I don't know if this is a controversial take or not, but I think that the path that we're currently on is not the right one. I think
Hmm.
it's going to peter
Okay.
out because I think we need some type of breakthrough beyond what we're doing today because
Mm,
we're already seeing sort of consistency across Gen AI models, and we're already seeing tools that can detect what's a Gen AI and what isn't a Gen
mm,
AI model, right? So there's some consistency coming there, and I think we're reaching the upper limits of what we can do with that. And
mm,
I feel like we're not on the right path yet. Like we need some kind of breakthrough that'll take us to a higher level. I think it become more and more sophisticated and get better and better and better, but I don't think we're going to get to AGI on this path. And I think a
mm,
lot of people are like, "Oh no, we're definitely going there." And I'm like, it feels like it, but I still sense that there's some conceptual leap that we have to make first to go beyond
mm.
this because we blew through the Turing test. That's correct. So we've done that, but we need new tests for AGI to
Yeah.
get to that point. And
That
I don't think
yeah.
we're going in the right direction yet. We'll get
Well,
there, but I think it's further away than we think.
yeah. I love that because you're articulating that we we as humans, because we haven't done it, we're thinking a linear human way, whereas general insurance is exponential, a different way of thinking. And to your point, as long because we haven't thought that,
Yeah.
we don't know how to accept. Even if we were to see it right now, I don't think we could accept it. So,
Yeah.
oh, I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
that's deep.
Well, the other thing I was reading the other day was really interesting is that a lot of people fear, he was saying that they fear AI because it's creating an alien intelligence, alien in
Mm,
such that it's not human. So it appears to be an intelligence, but it's not a human intelligence. So we're like, wait a minute, this is an intelligence, but it's not human. I can't relate to it, right? And I think
mm,
that might be where we end up with an AGI where we can't relate to it in the same way we can't relate to octopi or
yeah,
dolphins or dogs or
yeah,
cats.
yeah.
This AGI may not be able to relate to us in the same way. So
Mm.
we may have already created it. We don't recognize it yet. So that's a possibility too.
Oh,
That kind
yeah,
of
I love
scares
that.
me. So
It does exactly because it's already here doing manipulating us and working us as it. Yes.
who knows? It might be behind the scenes doing everything. Ah!
Yeah. True. That's cool. Love that.
Well, this has been great. Well, thank you so much. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Sure. Yeah. Check me out on LinkedIn, John Hetherington. I post pretty much daily insights, learnings from my journey, our business, technology, automation. I'm also on Instagram, and we have a YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. Well, I'll put all the links in the show notes, and thank you so much. It's been great.
Yeah. This is awesome. Great conversation. Love this. Thanks, Chris.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Right. Cheers.
Pixels and philosophies merge and mold, a future untold, unseen.